Good afternoon. We are welcoming you to this session at the International Conference, and if there are any people who just arrived, we are also welcoming you to the American Farm School. This session will be chaired or coordinated by me. My name is Ι.Χατζηδημητρίου. I'm a professor at the Department of Business Administration at the University of Macedonia, and I'm here because my field, my expertise is basically international business and export marketing, which is exporting is the largest part of this session. I guess you all know Dean J.Ruiz, right next to me, K.Ρότσιος, a good friend from all times. And the first speaker in our session is Mr. Κ.Κωνσταντινίδης from the well-known Pelopak SA, Pelopak Alpha Epsilon. Mr. Κωνσταντινίδης.
This is an international conference, so I'm going to speak in English so that everybody understands me. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. It's an honor, and I hope you'll find my presentation interesting. I'm going to use the case study of the USA specialty food retail sector. I think the lessons that apply to that sector, they apply to other markets too, and we can generalize from this. Maybe that's better. First of all, we have a changing retail environment. We have a changing environment anywhere in the United States. The culture is changing. A lot of it is because of demographics. The big households of 5 people, 6 people, where the parents, the mother especially, was cooking, are breaking down. We have smaller households. We have a lot of single-parent families. We have a lot of 1 or 2 person households. And also the culture of the younger consumers is changing. So from the traditional culture, we're going to experiential, self-expressing culture. This in food means that I am what I eat. It's not necessarily the food that I consume, but the food is what represents me. And also the way people buy their food, prepare their food, eat is different. So from the planned, rational, utilitarian way of buying and preparing food, it is going to a lifestyle-based, creativity-focused, and authenticity-based. People don't go once a week to supermarkets to stock for a week. They go to different stores, and we'll get to that later. So people from cooks who went and shopped for staples and ingredients once a week probably, where there was a lot of planning. The ingredients were bought, they were stored in a pantry, and they were used for preparing the food for the big family. This is changing. People are becoming eaters. They just consume food. They shop a lot for meals and snacks. They buy. Spontaneity is the basic driver. It's small trips. They want to find the food near them. And there is a lot of fill-in shopping. So probably they will go to some store and buy some things for the longer term, but a lot of it is bought practically every day. And they want to try. In the past, people were they wanted to eat familiar foods. They would buy certain brands, certain foods that they would cook time and time again. They buy new and unique foods. They want to try the experience. The food habits are changing. Snacking has become a key driver of consumption, and the consumer is demanding more healthy, convenient, and inspirational snacks. So it's not the snacks of old days, maybe a bar of chocolate, No one buys a bar of chocolate anymore. Very few people do. They have a lot of calories. Snacks represent over 50% of meal occasions in the United States. Eating is more fluid. It's not that the day is planned around dinner, but we will eat whenever it is convenient and wherever it is convenient. And this way, the way people eat changes. So the meals, to a large extent, they were culturally defined. So people with Italian origins would eat a lot of Italian. People with Middle Eastern origins would eat a lot of foods based on the Middle East. People would eat new foods, but the way now people are buying snacks and meal all the time, they are not bound to what is familiar to them and what is related to their culture. Especially for snacks, it is an impulsive buy. People walk, they see something, they buy it. The consumers expect physical, emotional, social, and cultural experiences. To younger people, and we'll get to that later, the food they buy signals who they are, and this is very important to them, probably more important than exactly what the food is about. Cooking is becoming more meal assembly. It's not the mother who was preparing recipes and cooking for the big meal of the family. 77% of meal occasions involve at least some prepared foods, and 42% involved all prepared foods. These changes affect also the drivers, the value drivers on which decisions are made. So the traditional, and I'm not sure, yes, you can see it better there. The traditional drivers of purchasing were price, taste, convenience. These are still important. Convenience has a new meaning. In the past, convenience meant that in the United States, at least, we go to a supermarket which has convenient parking. It has everything we want, all the products we want to buy. Now convenience is we want something near us. But we have new drivers, health and wellness. And wellness, it's much more holistic. We don't buy just something that is good for us. It's something that we feel good about consuming. Safety, of course, social impact, whatever that means, and experience. People buy food for the experience. So these are becoming more and more important. Transparency is also a very key driver. People want to understand what is it they consume, where it comes from, how it's made. Shoppers' loyalty. In the past, basically the consumer used to go once a week to the supermarket and stock. This is changing. 7%, just 7% of consumers use one retail chain. 65% use between 3 and 6, and 8% use over 8 to 10. So on average, consumers use 4.4 channels a month. Now, this is a complicated chart, and it says, it lists all the different, some of the channels, because there are more. It's a little simplified. We can see the first column says where people shopped in the past year, and we see that 90% of people bought from supermarkets. Still, supermarkets are the dominant channel. Mass merchandisers like Walmart or Target, they're also very important. Some of the other channels are less important in total, but if we go to the next columns, for a stock-up, people go to club stores. Club stores are like Macro we have in Greece, where you can get large size pack at a very competitive price, and this is where a lot of people will go to buy things that they will put in their pantry. For fill-in, to add to what they have, people will use drugstores. Drugstores in the United States are a little bit like supermarkets. They do have the drugs, but they also have a lot of other products, and they have more and more food all the time. Drugstores are very, very conveniently located in the cities, close to the consumers. For hard-to-find items, they go to specialty stores and they go online. Online is becoming more and more important. And for today's meal, they will go everywhere. Probably the number one is convenience store, which again, they are closely located. They are located close to the consumers. And to the question, what has become important to cover your needs? People refer to club stores, number one. Number two, online, and of course, supermarket. Online is becoming more and more important, and there are several moves in the marketplace. Amazon bought Whole Foods. Kroger is working with Ocado in the UK to develop an online offering. Everybody is scared of what Amazon is doing to the marketplace, and they try to adapt and compete with them. So, summarizing, grocery is still very, very important, but its dominance is decreasing. You cannot expect to cover a market selling just to the supermarket. Limited assortment stores, whether they are club stores or limited assortment grocery stores like Aldi, Trader Joe's, they are growing in importance, and these stores offer something to the consumer that the consumer thinks it has value. They are curators, so they choose the products for their consumers. Convenience stores and all the alternative channels, they provide easy access. They are located near the consumers. And of course, online, you can get practically anything you want online. You can find the most amazing product, the most difficult to find. It's growing a lot. A lot of people and online companies offer different services that make them even more accessible, the way they deliver. And it's a huge threat to all the above-mentioned brick-and-mortar establishments. Let me talk a little bit about the US table olive market, show you some of the challenges. This is a graph of the olive consumption on an annual basis in the United States. As we can see, total olive consumption is going down. On average, the previous 5 years to the last 5 years, consumption has gone down 5%. The story is different when we're talking about olive imports. Of course, José Manuel is going to talk about some recent developments that may alter a little bit the picture. We can say that olive imports are steady in the United States. Of course, this is not the whole picture because in a big market you have different segments. Olives have a relatively low household penetration. About 30 to 40% of American consumers will never eat an olive. They don't like the taste, so they are out of the equation. So we have a potential consumer which is about 60 to 70% of the total population. The household penetration in grocery of olives is about 23%. Of course, other consumers may eat olives from food service. But I'm talking about the retail sector, and there the penetration is 23%. So we have still a lot of penetration ground to cover. Who consumes olives? The current core consumer in the United States is people aged 35 to 64, and I should say it's more people at the older ages than the younger ages. Households with 2 to 5 people, annual household income of over 70%, white, Caucasian, Hispanic, and Latin, and basically consumers which have cultural ties to olive-growing regions, people of Mediterranean descent or Latin American. Where olives are under-penetrated in the young ages, under 35, the key age of millennials, in single-person households, in households with incomes under $70,000, in African American and Asian groups. This is a little worrisome because the older ages, we are getting older and we're getting out of the, will not be such big consumers in the future. And the dominant consumer, at least in the specialty food market, is the millennials. Also, the bigger households, as I mentioned earlier, they're becoming less and less. So we need to do something about it. Are there opportunities? We believe yes. Despite these challenges, or perhaps because of the challenges, we believe there are great opportunities. First of all, there is a sweet spot in the US table olive market, specialty food. The growth of specialty food olives, in the food market is 33% the last 5 years. And this is not surprising because the way the consumer is evolving, the consumer needs better quality products more closer to their needs of health and wellness. This is why specialty olives are growing. The older consumers with cultural ties to, with traditional cultural ties to olives, they consume less. So in a steady market, the specialty olive sector is growing. The question is, how can we take advantage of this trend? And who is the specialty food consumer? I hope you can read this quite dense chart. The major consumer groups at this point, they still are baby boomers. I was very disappointed to find out that I'm one of the youngest baby boomers. We are the people that we go to supermarkets and still buy for, in a planned way, for meals, for treats. We are driven by health claims, but this group is going down in consumption. The next group, Generation X, they are the people that they are even more interested in health claims. They hear recommendations, they will buy from places like farmers markets, closer to the producer. But what is interesting is the millennials. The millennials are the dominant consumer group for specialty foods. Now, where these people are buying, the millennials are people aged 22 to 39. They buy everywhere, in natural stores, mass merchandisers, club stores, specialty food stores, online, in convenience stores. And basically, they want to find the food wherever it's more convenient for them. Convenience is the key word, and it's the new age convenience. They use it in everyday meals, in snacking, for gifts, for treats, to share at work, to serve guests, and on special occasions. But to millennials, the food they consume is a signal to who they are. I am what I eat. This is the most important. They are driven by impulse, of course, convenience, and I mentioned what kind of convenience, the desire to share, to entertain, and to impress. People will eat certain food to impress their surrounding about what it is, who they are. The key, we need to understand the reality of the new retail environment, who our new target consumers should be, and especially how to talk to them about what makes our product special. So we need to engage this new age consumer. We have a great product to do that. We have a product that olives have been cultivated in this part of the world for 50,000 years, and there are trees that are 3,000 years old. As you can see, the olive tree in Vouviers, it still produces olives. And life in the Mediterranean, which is a great place with great imaging, when someone in the United States consumes an olive or any type of Mediterranean food, to some extent, it carries the image of living in the Mediterranean, blue sea, big meals. So life in the Mediterranean basin has always been intertwined with the olive tree, and it still continues to nourish the body and spirits of people. The origins, these are the pictures I was talking about. And people love and are more interested, especially the younger consumers, about social and environmental concerns. Our product comes from trees that have a long life, one of the most environmentally friendly cultivations. We have ways of processing olives naturally, and we need to promote all this. The benefits. We hear all the time that olive oil is a superfood. In Greece, we hear that olive oil is the national product and it has to be sold, although it is the table olive sector that is doing much, much better than the olive oil industry, if I may say. And of course, I represent the table olive industry, but still, I have to say that. And I think we have, besides, and someone mentioned, Mr. Dutsias, I think, made the comment earlier, that we shouldn't be talking about the oil in the olive oil, but there is much, much more to it. Olives have all kinds of health benefits, and especially naturally cured olives have the maximum benefit, the maximum polyphenols. They have monounsaturated fatty acids. They have triterpenoids, which fight cancer. And they have probiotic microorganisms. So we have to promote all this, and we have to relate to the needs of the consumer. We have to address the fact that consumers of all generations are using an increasing number of channels. We have to be everywhere. They expect to have food choices available to them wherever they decide to shop. We have to develop product offerings that are convenient, easy to snack on, and that allow them to share and engage socially with others. I'm not saying that what we are producing right now is not offering all this, but there is a new age of consumers coming. Online has a huge effect that we have just started realizing, and we should be thinking about the future. I believe what the table olive industry needs is a change of mindset. We have to change from a mindset of producing and supplying a commodity, which to a large extent is what we think of our business right now, to supplying and providing an engaging, relevant, and accessible product. I think even though the table olive industry has been very, very successful, I believe we need to be thinking of what is the future change we need to have. I'm closing with a small excerpt from one of our national poets, Odysseus Elitis, midday July. Even if there were no olive groves, I would dream them up. This is the spirit of olives in Greece, and we have in the Mediterranean. And we have to export that. We have to engage with this, the consumers all over the world. I was speaking about the US table olive market, but I'm sure that we have people here that work in other markets. I'm sure that the same principles that I mentioned apply to the UK, Canada, and all the advanced Western economies. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Kωνσταντινίδης. As always, your presentations are full of very useful details and very interesting, in fact. Our next speaker is Mr. Jose